Alright, so on Letterboxd, I wrote a very brief review of the movie To the Bone, and I explained it saying I appreciated almost nothing about it. And then I realized it's not the most descriptive review, and so I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna review this movie real quick. So this is nothing big, but I just wanted to kind of organize my thoughts a bit and put them out there so people can understand better why I did not like this movie. Spoiler alert, I didn't like this movie at all. By the way, there are actually some spoilers in this video. Nothing major, but some. So if you really want to see this movie, you might want to leave this review now. I did say in my Letterboxd review that I appreciated almost nothing, which is sort of true, but I will say one good thing about this movie first, because I like to give movies credit before I just shit on them. So I will say that the one thing I actually really liked about this movie is that it kind of tackled this idea of anorexia. Personally, I don't know anybody, I don't think I know anybody with anorexia. I don't suffer with anorexia. I don't really understand it, actually. So I never really understood what it was. I mean, I understood what it was, but I just didn't understand why people were anorexic. And basically, the way this movie kind of explained it to me that made me kind of understand it was there's this scene with a therapist talking to a bunch of her patients, and she basically says, you guys are basically not eating because it gives you this euphoric, almost drug-like feeling. You're addicted to this feeling of hunger, and it's sort of like escapism from your problems. And that made me actually understand that anorexia is almost like an addiction, and I really liked how they explained it to me. And I actually felt like when this movie was over, I understood anorexia better. So I will say that that is something I liked about this movie. That being said, I probably just could have looked up why are people anorexic, and I would have gotten the same thing. And here's my start of the issues with this. Even though the movie explained anorexia to me, it did it in a way where it was just pure exposition. It was like the movie was just talking to the audience and not progressing forward at all. And that's where this movie's, in my opinion, pretty long list of faults begins. Because this therapist, the way she explains it to her patients is, basically she asks one of the patients, oh, well, why don't you eat? And the patient straight up says, because I'm addicted to not eating. And then the therapist goes on and explains this exact phenomenon to the audience. And the reason why I say to the audience is because clearly she's not talking to her patients, because her patients already know this. It's pretty evident that her patients already know this, because the patient literally had just said it. So that proves to me that the movie is literally only including that scene to tell the audience directly. And if the movie just did that once or twice, I'd probably give it a pass. But my problem is this movie does this like all the time, and that's where I start to get iffy on this movie. And what really doesn't help is the fact that I do not give a shit about any of the characters at all. See, the first scene in this movie, I literally thought that the movie had like fast forwarded to the middle or something. I was confused. I was like, wait, did I just start this movie in the middle of the movie or something? Because it was so fast paced and rushed that I was like, am I in the middle of the movie? And then I checked and I was like, no, this is the first scene. And that's my main issue, is this movie has a pretty pathetic attempt at trying to introduce its characters to the audience. It's basically all exposition, and it's super rushed. This movie feels like it's trying as hard as it possibly can to make a certain time limit. Like, if this movie was a little longer, I actually might have liked it more, because it wouldn't have felt so beat you over the head, we gotta get this done as fast as we can. Because that's what it felt like to me anyways. I felt like there's not enough breathing room for these characters to sort of explain their situation to the audience in a manner that isn't just telling the audience, hey, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. It just didn't work for me at all. And I didn't care at all about this main character. Usually, in a good movie, even if you hate the characters, you at least somehow care about them. In this movie, I was just completely indifferent towards what was going to happen to them, because it's not even that I didn't know them, it's that I just wasn't convinced into why I should care about them, I guess. I will say that the acting, for the most part, was pretty good. The main girl did do a good job, and I feel like in the flesh, like actually on the set, she was probably doing really, really fantastic acting. But I think her performance was really ruined in the editing room, because you can tell that this performance was meant to be slow. It was meant to have a bit of tension to it. And because this movie is so rushed and the camera can't stay on one thing for more than like 3 seconds, there's no real feeling of tension there. There's no real feeling of sort of taking in what the character is delivering to the audience. It's just like straight up, get to the point, move on, get to the point, move on. There's no real settling into the performances or anything in this movie. So I hope I explained my feelings sufficiently. To be honest with you, I would not recommend this movie. I mean, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I feel like they tried with this movie, or at least the actors seemed to try. Maybe even the director tried. But it just was a little poorly edited and rushed, and I felt like the story, the script, I should say, the screenplay was a little rushed, and I see a good movie in this movie somewhere, but I don't think it's what we got. And it's a little disappointing because, again, like I said, I could see this being a really great movie if it was handled a little differently. Anyways, like I said, wouldn't really recommend this movie, but I guess if it sounds interesting to you, check it out. If you have seen it, tell me why you liked or did not like it down in the comments. I really want to know. I'll see you guys in the next video, I guess.